Hello and welcome to Enlightened Empaths, your community for the spiritually awakened, where we discuss, explore, and connect with fellow empaths, healers, intuitives, and seekers. Hello, empaths. We hope your week is off to a great start. This week, we're going to be sharing some of your wonderful questions and stories for our monthly community connections. And we have had a lot of response, didn't we, about the cord cutting episode we did?
We really did. And I think that it was a great perspective to look at it from a different way, because we've heard over and over through the years, this is one way you can do it. This is the only way. And then to offer new things, I think it's a great reminder that our work can grow and evolve as we grow and evolve.
Yes, exactly. Do you want to start us off?
I would love to. The first one says, I just listened to your cutting cords episode, and I'm so grateful for you because I first heard about cutting cords from one of your other podcasts. I want to share my experience. I've recently been aware and been recovering from my childhood sexual abuse. I went and saw my person. Yeah, she's a therapist, but she's also woo-woo. She and I talked about past lives, and in the past lives, abuse that I have received, and it was overwhelming. We sat and meditated and asked for guidance. My guidance was I went to the Incredible Woods, which is a place where I go to worship. Angels have been photographed there. I love those woods. It's so protected. So I went to the woods and sat down on a wonderful bench and brought energy from the earth and my higher power in to surround me in love and light and protection, and to show me all of the past cords that have been connected to me on my sexual abuse. It blew me away. There are at least 20. I see in this lifetime I'm supposed to heal from my sexual abuse. So I got out a machete, asked Archangel Michael to come in and help and cut them all and seal them in gold. I don't think about pulling them. I think I need to go back and do some work just in case it hasn't been sealed and taken out of me. I still have some issues around fear and also moving forward, which is in my hip, which you mentioned here. Thank you so much for your insight and your kindness and your love you've given us all. I'm so very grateful. And I love this in the sense that it feels very proactive, taking back this person's power, going into the Incredible Woods and realizing it was a place to be safe and protected and to go in and do the work. It's never too late.
It's never too late. That's such a fantastic point. And I like that she followed her intuition and instead of pulling them out, just, took that machete and whacked them out. Like, I'm done. I mean, that's a very symbolic message of I'm really ready to cut these cords and heal and focus on me.
And it does. And it has a very powerful image, doesn't it? It has a very warrior pose to think of getting a machete. She didn't say a knife. She didn't say a pair of scissors. She got a machete, damn it.
Yeah. And I like that she realizes she has to continue to heal because it's an ongoing process. And I believe that whenever we've been through a trauma like that, you have to heal through different stages of your life in different ways as you grow and evolve too.
Right. Very good point.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Our next one says, thank you guys for a wonderful podcast. You gave me so many ideas of things to try. As an empath who gets very sick even from birth, I'm going to try to cut cords to illness. I'm thinking that might help me and my mom, but I'm going to have to really think about that one. I've done this many decades ago, but I need to do it again for some issues. The first time was quite unexpected and not necessarily a good outcome. It was very intense because the person had a lot of anger towards me. So I was weary of doing it again, but I'm going to meditate on the best way this time. I'm tired of being sick from everyone else's energy and feeling so stuck. I also love the shows about crystals. Thank you for teaching and helping us. Sometimes when we cut a cord, the other person subconsciously, unknowingly feels it, and they will react in anger. That's something you read about a lot. Denise Lynn's books talks about it. A lot of different people who have written about cord cutting will say like, hey, heads up, things to watch out for. I don't think it means you should be wary of doing it again because they're just having an angry reaction because they no longer have your supply of energy. And so they're feeling nervous and angry and they don't even know why. but intuitively, subconsciously, they know. So I do think it's a good idea to consider cutting these cords to illness and also looking at the root of, why do you think you have taken on all of this? Why do you feel like it's okay for people to be angry with you? I mean, she didn't say that, but really to get to the root of how is all of this serving me? And when you can look at it from that way, like, is it a way to, retreat from life? Is it a way to take a time out? Well, then go deeper. Why do you need a time out? Why do you need to retreat? I think it's really important to do a lot of inner, honest soul searching in addition to the cord cutting.
And, as you're speaking, I was thinking about how so many life lessons or, our greatest teachers are the ones that really know how to push our buttons often. Is there a life lesson in this person taking their power back by repeatedly cutting these cords? And that was what she and this other person who's triggering this came in to do together, is to say, you know what, I'm going to keep pushing the buttons. I'm going to keep and see, and I'm going to keep attaching to you energetically. So I think sometimes if we look at it that, okay, I might have agreed to do this and we're both learning life lessons from it, but I don't need to do it. I've learned it and I can put it to rest now.
Oh, well said. That's the hardest thing to cut a cord with, are those people that are constantly in your life. If you are trying to cut a cord to a boss who was really mean to you 10 years ago, that's a little bit easier. Or if you're trying to cut a cord to an ex who's been out of your life for years, that's a little bit easier. But when you have to cut cords to people that you have to see all the time, or at least at holiday gatherings, they can record with you. So again, I know I sound like a broken record, but we have to keep revisiting to this form of healing.
And I think when you are recorded, there's a familiarity to it, that if it happens over and over, you get quicker at noticing it.
Yes, that's very, very true. Good point.
So our next one is very different, but very fun. I have to share this quick story from you. Yesterday, I was reading a book by David Kessler called Visits, Trips, and Crowded Rooms. Love that book.
Me too.
About deathbed experiences before people transitioned. As I was reading it, I kept thinking about my dad and wondering if he had visitors to help him and if he was scared, since he was alone in his room in the physical state when he passed. Well, I got a text from my wife at that moment telling me she's in a spiritual shop, one she almost didn't go into, and that an older man came in and made a joke to the worker. And it was the same obscure joke my dad would always say to people, which was, "Guess who I saw today?" "Who?" "Everyone I looked at." Now, none of us in the family have ever heard anyone else say that before other than my dad. So I just knew with the timing of reading the book and getting this text from her that it was his way of saying he wasn't alone and had a smooth transition. I love that.
That's perfect. That is such a dad joke, but I've never heard that.
I haven't either. And I think I shared this once, that when my son was really tiny, he said an expression that I have never heard anyone else in my life use except my father, who passed well before this son was born. And he just looked at me, and I have no doubt my father was whispering in his ear, "Watch your mother's face when I say this." But what beautiful validation for this person to realize that his dad was giving him a thumbs up, that he was okay.
Really and truly. And kudos to this listener for recognizing that,
Right.
for being open and seeing the connection, that the synchronicity, that this definitely was a hello from heaven.
So I want to add another twist to this. I know these folks that sent this one in, and the woman is highly, highly intuitive, incredibly connected. So did the father say, "Okay, I know I can get you this message to give to your partner, to give to your husband"?
Yeah, I would think so, right?
Yeah, I love it. I just
That's
love it.
beautiful. Our next one says, I've been meaning to send this email for months, and every Community Connections podcast reminds me I still haven't sent it. What do you know about chimeras? And what do you know about attached souls? Is there a correlation? I've been told by what I would generalize as a medical intuitive that I have two sets of DNA, and this is called chimerism. It seems to cause my body some issues when the DNA almost have different responses to foods or illnesses. But she also says it may have helped me along the way with recovering from some illnesses. I did a little digging on my own, not much, but enough to think that the lines on my arms are a sign that maybe I really do have two sets of DNA. When I was younger, I thought maybe they were just weird tan lines from laying in the sun a certain way, but they never go away when the tan wears off. And to be clear, I've never sought out testing to confirm that I have two sets of DNA. I've been told by another source, more of a spiritual healer, that I have an attached soul. Several sessions later, it hit me that two souls and two sets of DNA likely have a connection. Both sources agreed. I think because of how they practice, one more scientific and medical than the other, they just don't talk about it in the same way. The spiritual healer makes it seem like emotionally things can be confusing to me because of an attached soul. The intention for the attached soul before incarnating was to be an observer, but this spiritual healer says the attached soul's emotions seem to be spilling over and causing me confusion. Isn't life complicated enough? Haha. I'm curious what you ladies know. Well, that's really interesting.
Right. And I know that this is when the double DNA, the two sets of DNA, they found this with the chimeras, that there's science to prove that, but it will show up. I have an old friend that has one brown eye and one green eye, and that would be a sign of this. They're saying it's a double DNA. But there's a whole lot of examples of this. What popped into my head is, you know how they'll say a lot of times people will have twins and one will get absorbed and only one. And I wondered about that as being part of it.
Interesting. It made me think of the work of William Baldwin.
Oh.
Have you ever read his books on spirit releasement therapy?
No.
Yeah, he's written a couple of books on it. I've read one or two. To be honest, it kind of freaks me out. But
Mhm.
it is this theory, this idea that there are some souls who just don't want to stay on the other side, and they still want to experience and learn and grow things on earth without having a full earthly life. And so they will attach themselves to certain people. And it can cause issues because you're sharing energy, you're sharing your aura with someone else.
I'm sure that there are medical tests. They can test for so many things right now. But what about the attached soul part? Because that, I don't know how I feel about that. I see each individual as having one soul light, and I'm not sure that you would be, it almost feels like you'd be a host if there was another. And I'm not saying it's parasitic, but it kind of feels that way.
That's how the books have described it. It kind of, from a Christian perspective, sounded to me a lot like possession.
Right.
So I don't know. I like I said, I read one or two books years ago, and I was like, "Ooh, this is a little a step too far for me." But it's something that this listener could consider looking into.
Yeah, and there are some symptoms of this, the two different colored eyes, hyperpigmentation, uh, two or more sets of DNA presence in the body's red blood cells, and possible autoimmune issues, such as those related to skin and the nervous system. So, and I think it can be often it's discovered by accident, but there are genetic testing that can be done for this. And I wonder too if there is any familial pattern to this because the friend I mentioned with the two different colored eyes, I don't think anyone else in her family or lineage had them. So I don't think there's a genetic component in that it's something that's passed down. But I don't know. Not a geneticist. Don't play one on TV.
That is fascinating.
Um, On a completely different note, just finished listening to the Intuition or Coincidence episode, and I wanted to share an experience I had that falls into this category. On Wednesday, October 16th, I decided that I wanted to have a long meditation session. I'm not someone who meditates consistently. However, on this night, I felt called to do so. I went into the meditation with the intention that I wasn't going to ask questions. I was just going to be open and allow anything to come through. I found a gratitude frequency playlist on Spotify and decided to settle into my meditation. Throughout my meditation, I had many different visions. When the song on the playlist would change, so would my vision. I noticed right away that my visions were very quick, as if it were an immediate download, but filled with tons of detail. I tried not to dwell on them, again, just trying to be open to allow anything to come through. One of the visions that really stood out to me was about me and my partner. In the vision, we sat on a grassy cliff, cuddled up together, overlooking the ocean and watching the sunset. It's a very loving vision. I remember thinking, wow, how cute. But again, I didn't want to dwell on anything and continued to let my mind wander. Continued with the meditation, having many other visions. When I was done with the meditation, I went to my journal and began to write them all down. And when I finished, I went back through the playlist and paired the song title to the vision it was associated with. Coincidentally, the title of the song that I had the vision of my partner and I was 528 Hertz Manifest Love. I was so surprised and again thought, wow, that's really cute. When my partner got home that night, I excitedly told him about the vision. To preface, my partner does not believe in woo, but he always acts interested when I talk about spiritual things. However, when I told him, he was just like, yeah, that's really weird. I asked why he thought that, and he just shrugged it off, quick to change the subject. I didn't think much of it that night because it was late and we were just about to go to sleep. Fast forward 3 days later, and my partner took me on a wooded trail walk by the lake. We ended up winding through the woods until we got to a cliff that overlooked the lake while the sun began to set. There my partner got down on one knee and proposed to me. I was so overwhelmed with happiness and love, I didn't even remember the vision that I'd had a few days prior. It wasn't until the walk back that he mentioned it. It all clicked into place and everything made sense. I was shocked. I couldn't believe that I intuitively saw my proposal. To add to some of the coincidences, while my partner and I were on the cliff, there were a group of people on the rock below listening to a song called Lover's Rock by TV Girl, which is all about love and the feelings that go with it. Song released 10 years ago when my partner and I first met. It was also a song that I frequently listened to in one of my playlists, not to mention the metaphorical representation of actually being on a rock with my lover. How crazy is that? I also found that my partner picked the ring up and picked the location on Tuesday, the day before I had my vision. The best part of it all is my fiance said, I may not understand all the things that you talk about with the universe and spirits, but I believe you 1,000%. And I knew he was my person, and I've never felt more spiritually and universally aligned than I had in that moment. It really felt like everything had clicked together so perfectly. Thank you both for all you do. If it weren't for both of you, I wouldn't know where I am in my spiritual awakening and my spiritual experiences. And more importantly, I'm not sure that I'd believe in myself. Thank you. Oh, that's a very much an oh.
Well, congratulations.
Yes, yes. And I think I remember someone else that had a dream about a ring being offered, but that could be a story for another day.
Are you talking about mine?
Yes.
Okay, so that is kind of a funny story. So I kept having this dream that Michael was proposing to me on a boat. Is that the
Mm-hmm.
one you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I didn't, say anything to him, and then it was our anniversary and he rented a boat for us for the weekend. A boathouse. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's actually happening this weekend. So every night, like we'd go to dinner and I'd get all, dolled up and waiting. I wasn't like going through the cake at the dessert or anything, but I was like kind of waiting. And on the last night, I was just a little quiet and he was like, you seem a little off tonight. And I was like, I got to be honest with you. I had this dream that you proposed to me on a boat and here we are in a boathouse and it's our anniversary and you planned this beautiful romantic weekend. And it turned out that he had bought the ring that week. But I think that's what I was dreaming about. He was like, I can go home and get it right now. And I was like, no, not at all. And he said, darn it, it's so hard dating a psychic. Can't keep any secrets. You know what this listener email makes me think about though? So you know how I've been doing that deep dive into the Gateway project that the
Yes.
CIA did on out-of-body travels and altered states of consciousness. Well, one of the things that report talks about is how there is no time. It's completely created and man-made, and it uses a lot of quantum physics to explain it. But it was saying that we really can access the past and the future at any time through meditation. And this is such a good example of that because she was in this relaxed state. I think it's so important when she said that she went into the meditation without any expectation and without wanting to get any certain information from it. Don't you think that's like the perfect attitude or intention to bring to meditation?
100%.
And then she traveled into the future and saw her proposal.
Yeah, it is really. And the fact that she thought she was looking out over the ocean, but then when she got up there, it's the same scenario. It's a lake. It's still a body of water. You climb the trail. The sun is setting. So I think with these types of things is not to allow it to unfold and not to be stuck on the tiniest details that might be presented.
Yes, exactly. Wow. Okay. This next one, I think a lot of listeners might resonate with. She starts off, I've started listening to your podcast a few months now, and it's helped tremendously with a lot of my questions. I'm so blessed I found it, but I have no idea how it happened. I honestly don't even know how I started this journey. I've been feeling unfulfilled with my journey in organized religion, which I'm sure you guys hear constantly, but since I've started my journey, I've never felt more fulfilled in my life. It was like this world just came to me one day, and I submerged myself in it. I've been very frustrated with the representation, or lack thereof, of publications to educate me on my journey and ones like mine. Everything I have read states that everyone is psychic, but I have not come across any books, articles, or videos of the start of their journey with no abilities to developing profound intuition. I have just been on this journey for about 3 months, and I'm very much like you, Samantha. I research everything as soon as I'm interested in something. I've searched and searched. I know that patience is the key, and I'm not worried about my journey taking time because, as you've mentioned before, this is a lifelong journey, and I'm perfectly content with that. I just wish I had a little material or an author's point of view of starting from scratch or square one as I am. The only material I've been able to find talks about how people with these abilities experience things as children or young adults. I never really have had things happen as a child, but I have always been very sensitive to the feelings of not just people, but inanimate objects. I have found myself thinking about how a table feels to have heavy items on it and whether it's hurting it. I find myself thinking about how an animal feels and what it's thinking, what it's seeing from their point of view. I find that I have physical feelings about how they feel. So I felt it was very strange. I never mentioned it to anyone. I honestly thought to a degree everyone did that secretly in their mind. I have had a few things happen that I knew were my guardian angels or spirits, like nudges about things. Are there any publications that come to mind that could help? Also, I've had a few tarot readings and Reiki where I've been told that I am a healer and should be doing Reiki. What if that's the universe telling me this is my path, but I'm not too interested in it? Should I trust them and go with it anyway, or should I follow my interest? I've been studying tarot and I find I am interested in it. Thank you for the support you guys give to everyone who follows you and newcomers like myself. You don't understand what you mean to a lot of people around the globe, and we're lucky that you are blessed with the ability to help so many. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I definitely think a lot of people can relate to this because not everyone does have psychic experiences as a child. But I do feel like there are some pretty good beginner books out there. One that comes to mind is the Anastasia system. Have you read that,
A
Denise?
long time ago.
Yeah, it's an older one. There's a series of books. I think you can still find them on Amazon or at your local bookstore. You can ask them to order it. It's by Sandy Anastasia, and she was John Edwards' teacher. And her books, in my mind, do tend to start at the very, very basics. And then with each subsequent book, they're all like workbooks, and then you build up from there. But if I'm remembering correctly, the first book is just on how to feel your own energy, how to sense and tune in to your own energy, your own aura through visualization, journaling, meditation. And then the next book is all about chakras and your energy system. And then it goes from there. So I would recommend that you check out the Anastasia system. And with Reiki, if someone tells you, oh, you're a healer, you should try Reiki, you don't have to follow that. I mean, you might be doing healing work right now when you just send loving energy to an animal that you're feeling connected with. So if you're not feeling guided towards something, don't do it. And it might come back to you. that's happened to me so many times. I remember years ago, someone was like, "Oh, you should study the runes," and I was like, "The rocks with the things on them? No, no, thank you." And then we were asked to do a deep dive on it on my other podcast, and I got really into runes, but that was like 10, 12 years after I had been told that. So just know that it's okay. All of this is part of your journey. And the fact that she says she was feeling so fulfilled now that she's on this journey, I mean, that's everything right there.
It really is. And I agree with you completely that I think we've all tried different. I think I'm supposed to do Reiki. I think I'm supposed to read cards. And then all of a sudden it all starts to come together. They're all tools that you'll use wherever you end up. And they might be for just self-reflection and development. They might be to use with other people. They might be to use in a business. As I said earlier about the other topic, it will grow and evolve as we grow and evolve. I really think that if it doesn't resonate, then it's not for you. No matter, so it's similar to, this is an odd comparison, but one of my sons he's a big guy, and he had no interest in playing football. But by all rights, the football coach could not understand why that kid would not play football because he had no interest in it. I know that's blasphemous in some parts of the country, and I apologize. Um, but also that she made a you made a really good point in relation to this, is we have to honor the way that we're wired. And you do have to start with, how does my energy feel? How do I process things? What are my clairs? And I know that sounds really basic and stupid. I spoke with a woman recently, and she said, Denise, I've read all the books. I've been doing this for years. I've taken the classes. I've practiced. Why am I not getting anything? What's wrong with me? I said, there's nothing wrong with you. She says, no, you don't know how many hours I really, really want this. And then we started talking, and there were so many subtleties that I think sometimes we expect it to be a cowbell when it's more of a whisper.
Yes. That's what I meant about the earlier email we had where your friends had noticed the sign when the dad came in with the joke.
Right.
Being open and aware of how our intuition, how our spiritual team of helpers is connecting with us is the first part of really understanding and accepting that we truly are all intuitive. But
Good.
that takes a deeper awareness. I think so often you know how this last listener was saying she thought everyone had thoughts like that and everyone was connecting and thinking about what animals were emoting and feeling and things. But no, that's not true. Not everyone does.
No.
And I think part of recognizing your innate intuition is giving yourself that validation that you are feeling that.
And I know I yammer on and on about this, that goes back to finding people you can have these kind of conversations with in community so you can get the validation that you need. If you can't have this conversation in your real world with your family or your friends or your coworkers, reaching out to find people that understand what it's like to feel compassion for inanimate objects or animals or the rocks. We remember when we were talking about picking up rocks and asking them if they wanted to go home with us. A lot of people would roll their eyes and think, oh, dear God, that poor woman, she's talking to rocks down there on the beach.
It's so true. You do have to find your tribe.
Yes, very much
You know what
so.
I did recently? I have, through all the years of living by the beach, the girls and I have collected so many seashells.
Mm-hmm.
And I have these big glass vases everywhere filled with all these seashells. And I'm like, I cannot move this into the new house. Like it's so heavy, it's so cumbersome. So when I visit the beach now, I've been bringing bags of those seashells and returning them to the ocean.
Oh, that's nice.
And my girls are like, "Mom, you're definitely different." And I'm like, "Well, they worked hard to grow and I want someone else to enjoy them."
And I think that's very honorable, because rather than just dumping them somewhere or throwing them away, God forbid, and I think that's a really hard thing when you have things you've picked up in nature they should go back to nature when you're done with them.
Yeah, I think so.
And I bet some of those shells were just so excited. Look, I'm home.
I know, I know. That's what I'd like to think.
Me
Okay.
too.
Do you have any other books you want to recommend before I've got one more?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay. Our last one says, very recently, a new friend of ours passed away unexpectedly. It was someone my spouse and I had spoken to many times and had planned to have dinner with in the near future. In conversation about our newly transitioned friend, someone in the group mentioned she was interested in tarot and had been reading cards. None of us had known this. Since none of us had gotten very close yet, I didn't know to what extent she did readings, but this caused me to wonder something that I've kept to myself. When someone has done readings for a long time and has cards they are connected with, or I guess any tools they are deeply connected to, is there something customary or proper that is done with those things after their passing from this life? I would imagine that items might be shared with loved ones, but for some reason, I'm curious about the cards because they just seem like something that is a very personal kind of thing. What are your thoughts? I do think that those tools that we use are a very personal thing, but when we are gone, we're gone, and so possibly the link to that object is no longer connected. And I think it's always a lovely thing to bless them and thank them for serving that person and then pass them on to someone else who might need them and be able to use them.
Right. And you and I have a lot of tarot decks and oracle decks and affirmation decks, and we have decks. I'm sure you've noticed that as you've been packing up to
Oh
move.
yes. I think I have an issue with my amount of oracle cards.
And I was looking at that the other day and thinking, what this is so timely, this question, because they do hold your energy very, very much so, especially if you're using them in a consistent basis. And sometimes that can be a wonderful thing. If I would love someone to be able to feel the love and compassion that have gone into my cards, but I no disrespect to my sons, but I don't think either one of them keeping a collection of oracle cards is in their future.
I
So
have
do you?
a friend who collects antique tarot cards on eBay.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh. So do you think you should start dispersing them while as you're doing your, what is it, Danish death cleaning, where you're releasing stuff at end of life? Start
Yeah.
gifting them, or
Yeah. I do. I do. I was when one of my girls was home this past weekend to help me pack up, and I was looking at all my crystals, and I was like, all right, one of you has to get really into rocks because you're going to have to know what these are when I'm gone.
Mhm.
So you can sell them and or pass them on and understand. Like, I have this Aurora crystal that I got at Exquisite Crystals, and I think I spent like $400 on it. And it looks like like a normal cluster quartz, but
Right.
it's not. It's not. And so I'm like, you guys have to know like what all of these are. And she was like, yeah, yeah, okay. But if the family isn't interested in it, then I do think you should disperse of it while you can see the people enjoy it.
You might have to do that remember that old thing people used to do when they put somebody's name on a sticker on the bottom of the things in the house,
Oh
like, "Oh,
my
you
gosh.
got Aurora crystal, a little tiny sticker on the bottom."
Did I ever tell you about that time we were at my great aunt Rosie's? It was my mom and her sisters and me. And I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13. And great aunt Rosie had grown up next door to my mom and her family. And she married, but never had children. And so she had a lot of beautiful things. And we go over to her house for lunch one day. And she passed out to the ladies, my mom and her and the aunts, a, a a piece of paper that had little circle stickers. So like my mom had red circles, one aunt had blue circles, and the other aunt had green circle stickers. And Aunt Rosie was like, just go around the house and just put stickers on everything you want. And I remember my mom and her sisters were like, oh no, Rosie, we can't do that. Like, let's not talk about that, blah, blah, blah. Persist, persist, resist. And as the day wore on, you could see each of the women just casually slapping a little sticker down on a lamp here, a table there, a piece of jewelry upstairs.
Well, since you brought it up, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, we can't end on this note. That's not a happy note.
Well, it is. It's a fun note. It's light. So, what would be a happier note? Uh, let's I okay. I'm going to just take a twist. This isn't anything anyone sent in. It's just a collective energy thing that's going on. If the world is feeling really heavy right now, which it is, and I've been talking to people in in various situations and countries and places, and this isn't just in one location. This is global. Please take care of yourself. Take care of the people that you love. Focus on your little world, and not to the exclusion of, but we have to take care of each other right now. And I know that sounds altruistic, but it's energetically, it's intense right now.
It's very intense right now. And I think we have to check in on our loved ones and take care of each other. But we also have to recognize how powerful we are in our own energy. So
Yes.
if we take time each day to send love and light and healing to the world, we really can make a difference.
So remember I mentioned that I've been doing the daily meditation practice with the journey in the morning.
Yes.
And it's become part of my morning habit, which I'm very, very grateful for because I tend to be a creature of habit. And I do well if I do the same thing, same way, same time. But it's giving me a sense of peace that's permeating out into the rest of my day. And it's giving me perspective on the rest of my day. So yours might be working out or taking a walk or listening to uplifting music. And we use the same examples over and over, but they work. They really work.
They do. They really do.
You know, this is totally not our show or what we talk about, but I was reading my cynicism, which innately is quite strong, I'll admit it. uh, I was reading something and then I was double guessing, is this even real? So I think discernment.
That's every day that I read the newsletter.
Yes,
Is
yes.
this even real?
Yes, and I think we need to have the discernment to take a step back, to take a breath and say, is this something that I really absolutely have to put into my mind, my body, my energy right now?
Yeah,
It's
exactly. Exactly. And thank you for being gentle with me. I was talking to a friend about everything going on in the world, and I just laughed because it feels a little absurd.
oh,
And
it
it's
does.
overwhelming. And she got so upset with me.
Yeah.
There's nothing to laugh about. And I was like, no, no, no. I did not mean any disrespect. It's just, it's so out there that it's like, that's my only response. But, you know, some people are sensitive. You have to be careful
Yes.
what you say. But I just think you have to take those news breaks, keep informed, but take those news breaks when your energy feels really heavy with all of that stuff
Yes.
and understand that as a country, as a world, we have gotten through worse, and I think we're all going to be fine. I really do.
I think this is,
Astrology is kicking in positive ways.
yes. And another twist, if you really want to take another twist on this, is what's the opportunity that in this for you as an individual? There's always, and if this is terrible to throw into this, but maybe not. One of my favorite expressions is I've been to hell and this isn't it. And from different circumstances in my life, this might feel like hell to you right now, and that's okay. But it also is giving you a strength and perspective that's going to carry through with whatever else comes in your path moving forward. And I think that's really, really important to remember. This isn't going to be what breaks you.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Denise. I think I needed to hear that. A lot of people needed to hear that.
Well, if it sounded preachy, I apologize.
No,
I
it
didn't mean
sounded
it that way.
beautiful and gentle and loving and true.
See, it didn't feel that way coming out of my mouth, so thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. And thank you so much to our listeners who took time out of your busy days, your busy lives to send us an email and share a little bit about your journey and your experiences and your questions. If you want to share with us for our next month's Community Connection show, you can always email us, enlightenedempaths@gmail.com. Don't forget to find us on Facebook. Just search Enlightened Empaths. If you enjoy the show, please tell a friend or leave us a review so we can continue to grow our community. In the meantime, have a beautiful, wonderful week. Don't forget to show up, do great work, and share your light.
Take care.